Yo, 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 what up, though, man? I want to say Detroit street royalty in the building right now. Uh, one of the most, I want to say, one of the most uplifting, one of the most thought provoking, one of the most entertaining podcasts, which we gonna talk about. Great documentary that got me put on to these guys, man. Motown Mafia. We get to talk about, Eddie Fatman Jackson. Is that how you said it? And then
That's
your
right.
pops, Courtney Brown Sr.
Yep.
Hey, and what was his nickname?
The field marshal.
The Field Marshal.
Or
yeah.
the professor.
There we go. But right now I have with me Courtney Brown Jr., man. Welcome to Mogul State of Mind. How you doing?
Thank you, fam. Appreciate you, bro. Glad to be here. I love your work too. And so let's just happy to be here and keep this thing going, man. This thing's took on a life of itself, this whole Motown Mafia movement. So
No, for sure. Let's talk about the project, because right now y'all Motown Mafia is out, and then now y'all dropped recently at the top of the year, released Motown Mafia 2 Reloaded. Is that
that's right. So Motown Mafia, the story of Eddie Jackson and Courtney Brown, that's been out for a minute.
right?
We've been thriving on Tubi and on Amazon Prime. Check it out, Pluto, for a minute on all three of the streaming platforms. So we did that back in the day. Shout out to my man Al Prophet. Al directed that.
Yeah, shout out to Al for sure.
Up. Shout out to Scott Bernstein. So that's kind of when the Detroit thing, we all clicked up. Scott and Al and me and Lou, Eddie Jr. and everybody. So it was a kind of a passion project, and I didn't know. We come from the streets, and then after the streets, we went into business, the clothing business.
Yeah.
So I knew nothing about it. I just was like, we should tell this story that everybody know about Pops and the Big Man when they put the thing. They anyway ended up winning Best True Crime. They won a Best True Crime Story LA Film Festival, Best True Crime documentary, Bronze Lens down in Atlanta, ABFF. And next thing we know, we start submitting it, and it started winning awards and got critically acclaimed and kind of became standard bearer for Detroit. Yeah.
Now, on Motown Mafia 2 Reloaded, what's the theme? What are we getting from this one that we didn't get from the first?
Okay, so first one we covered from basically 69 when Eddie's a taxi driver, Pop driving the bus.
Yeah.
Lifelong friends. And, as fate would have it, Eddie got linked up through as the legend is true, through a common dope fiend that he knew, a guy named Box, who needed a blow and traded a connect for a blow. And he introduced Eddie to a guy named John Clausen, as the streets call him, Claxton, who was like the biggest guy in Detroit in 69.
Okay.
Him and Henry Marzette. And Box introduced Eddie, who had just been struggling. My pops had got Eddie a $3,000 insurance check. Eddie told my old man that he was going to go into the game. My father told Eddie, "You are nuts. We don't know nothing about the dope business or the dope game." And Pops was like, or Eddie was like, I know Bourbon, but could call my father Bourbon. He was like, "Bourbon, but I'm telling you, niggas getting plenty money in that game." And my father filled out some insurance paperwork for Eddie, got him $3,800. Eddie gave my father $800, and he put the other $3,000 in the game. Lost and squandered most of it. And then this junkie, God bless his soul, because me and Lou, this guy, this addict, stop saying dope fiend, this addict, Box, set into motion a $1 billion 4-decade run.
Yeah.
So he introduces Eddie the Claxton, who's the biggest thing in the city. Eddie goes from broke in 69. 18 months later, he's worth 10 million.
That's crazy. And that's the name back then.
And 10 million 1970 money. So by all day, 100 million today's money. He tells Pops sees what his man is doing. Pop 3 months behind on rent, on his mortgage. Tell Eddie, man, I'm gonna quit the bus. This ain't working out. And they go. Eddie and my dad go back to the playground, sandlot together. He was like, "Bro, you've been working your whole life with it. I'm telling you, see your man is eating. Come get with me." And we went from in 18 months. We went from the projects to Northwest Detroit to living next door to Smokey Robinson and the Temptations. Eddie, you know, always give us hope, and he changed everybody's life.
Mhm.
He told the old man, because they ain't know nothing about getting no money. They never had no money.
Yeah.
And Eddie was like, man, I ain't the only one that's gonna live like this, man. I want y'all to live. And he had a vision and a way of life. He was like, win, lose, or draw, when it's all said and done, they gonna say this click here. Fatman people, we did our thing. And he built a house bigger than Smokey Robinson and Barry Gordy and laid it out, told his man, my father, he said, man, you come move. I'm buying a house next door to me. Now, looking back, that's a great way to get hot.
Yeah.
Here we go, fellas. Let's do this. Well, number one and number two, man, let's buy the biggest houses. And this is back in this area, Southfield, Northland Gardens. Back then, it was like voted the most exclusive suburb in America.
Gotcha.
Right? It's where all the movers and shakers lived. And but Big Man was like, if I'm living like this, you need to come out here with me, man. And if however it's gonna go, we gonna do this.
Yeah.
And we ain't gonna play with it.
So part two, is this what we seeing more of?
I'm sorry, I got carried away. A little passionate about it. So anyway, so the part one covers from the whole rise and fall. The rise all the way up to them, and then, you know, as the legend would go, Eddie then, I mean, it was lined up. So he meets this guy Claxton, who's big.
Yeah.
He goes to the Ali Frazier fight just to go to the fight and see who he might bump into, because all the other players going to be at the fight.
Yeah.
And literally, by happenstance, he walked into a store to buy some shoes that was owned by a guy by the name of Carmine Lombardozzi, who's known in organized crime as Doc Gambino.
Okay.
Carmine Lombardozzi owned a clothing store in Midtown Manhattan. Carmine Lombardozzi was the chief lieutenant of Carlos Gambino. He controlled all the narcotics for the Gambino crime family.
Mm-hmm.
Unplanned, unscripted, nothing. Eddie walks in doing his Eddie thing. He got all his diamonds on. He got the fleet, the whole crew. He done took 20 Cadillacs and 2 Rolls Royces from Detroit. He lines up 6th Avenue with all his whip. He come in blinging like Liberace. And the people that was there, probably the people were there, and the Italian Doc game recognized game. And they cut in, they had a little conversation. They said, let's make a bet. Eddie ended up taking Ali. Ali loses that fight. He comes back the next day to pay Carmine Lombardozzi, Doc Gambino. And Doc tells him, he said, man, I think we in the same business. I don't think nobody need to lose. You lost the bet, but I think you're going to end up a winner out this deal. He tells him the ticket. And of course, this was the time where the Gambinos they made a movie about it, The French Connection.
Yeah.
That China White that was coming out of Marseille, it was taking a 95. You know, Big Man got a hold of that bag. He could put a 30 on it, sell it to everybody in the street. It was still better than anything. After he then took one key and turned it into 20, the crew can then take that key and hit it another 50 times.
Damn.
It was over. It was just over. It was just, when he got that plug with the Gambinos, it was over, man. And so he goes, but then they catch the case. Let me get to it.
Yeah.
So they catch the case, right? They go away, pops the Big Man. 32 people indicted, 32 indicted, 32 found guilty, 32 went to jail. Not one person cooperated.
Mm.
Last time you're going to hear about that.
Yeah.
Say it again. 32 indicted, 32 found guilty, 32 went and sat down, no cooperating witnesses. That was the kind of run and the way he treated his people. And when it all hit, they said, well, if it's for the run we done had, if it's time to sit down, it's time to sit down. So we cover now in Motown Mafia Part 2 Reloaded. Eddie, Big Man gets out. He goes away in 76, gets out in 83, because back then you only had to do a third of your time. The Fed still had parole. Okay. Pop goes away with the rest of the crew in 77. He comes home in 84. But by this time, I'm just getting out of college. Eddie Baby's just about to finish high school. And so we take off on what happens once Pops and the Big Man get out of jail from the big run, from the grand hustle. And we take it all the way to turn this into when I finally put the bag down.
Got you.
Yeah.
And they can go check that out. Where right now?
Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Pluto TV, any streaming service.
Got you.
Motown Mafia. On the book itself, which the doc was based off of, Motown Mafia, Memoirs of a Kingpin's Kid, that's available on Amazon or at BigBossFilmWorks.com.
Got you. Now, I appreciate you summarizing that up and giving people a taste, because that's kind of why I want to walk through today. Like you said, your pops and Eddie Jackson met very young.
Very young.
What was their upbringing like?
Eddie's father actually was a successful businessman. Back then, you know, it was segregation, though.
Okay.
He owned a couple pool halls. He owned a bunch of real estate. Rumor has it he was selling booze, underground booze.
Okay.
You know, they come from Arkansas. Now, my pops, you know, family was very, but back then, even the people, blacks with money, had to live next to the blacks with no money, so everybody. So Eddie lived basically they shared backyards.
Okay.
And in fact, a lot of the crew, Eddie's father was their landlord to their parents. Shout out to Charles Rudolph. Shout out to the Garrett family, 5-0 and them. All the, what they call the charter members, the original crew of Eddie Jackson, they had all grown up together. It's got a lot to do with why nobody rolled either. I mean, because that thing went back long before there was any money and none of that. They had come up. But Eddie, my dad's like 4 years older than Eddie. And he kind of had a reputation in the neighborhood as the good kid.
Okay.
And Eddie's father was very protective of him and R.I.P., his older brother, Elijah. So the only kid in the neighborhood that Eddie could really go around and play with was my pops.
Gotcha.
And his pop had like told Eddie at a young age, you keep Courtney close to you.
Gotcha. Now, in that day of coming up, was heroin still the drug? Or what drugs was around, like during your pops and them kid days coming up?
So late 50s, early 60s, drugs were out, as they called it, reefer.
Yeah, okay.
People were smoking reefer. They smoking reefer. But people was, heroin was already out, not as much in Detroit in the 60s, say, as in New York and Harlem. Because there's some legends like Pee Wee Kirkland. Pee Wee Kirkland hit like a lick in 66 with the dog food.
Yeah.
Henry Marzette here in Detroit, who's kind of regarded as the first kingpin, he got out of the joint like late 50s and early 60s and was putting it down. But it wasn't widespread to probably the late 60s. So it wasn't a heavy drug environment when they grew up. My father never saw drugs till he was 30 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
He never had touched, seen, or sold any drugs till he was 30 years old.
So who were if drugs weren't that prevalent at that time, who were like the upper echelon of the street people then at that time? Is it
John White? That's Big Number Man. Got another number man called Dow Jones. Bigfoot Eddie Wingate. I mean, legend.
Okay.
You know, they had some of the big Heavy Herbies there. Shout out to Heavy and them. We had some of the biggest number men's in the country.
Gotcha.
Here in Detroit. I mean, those guys was making. In fact, because even when Pop and them started hustling, the only guys really that could even, before the state got involved in the lottery, was the number guys. They was getting money like Eddie. They was still
get to it.
They was still getting to it as late as when I was growing up in the early 70s, mid 70s.
What about pimps? A lot of people used to say like those were their flashy ones.
Yeah, but to be honest, most of them was broke. A lot of the guys that end up working with Eddie was all quote unquote ex-pimps.
Okay.
But shoot, and when that thing got out there, how you gonna pimp? That thing you might be scared of you as a pimp, but you ain't as strong as that thing.
Facts.
So she on that thing, whatever you talking about, you can't out sweet talk that thing.
Yeah.
You can't scare that thing. She taking that money in to old boy who got that thing. So a lot of the pimps I think when the bag really got right on the street, is when the pimp game really started to dry out. But there was still a few.
Gotcha.
And I remember a lot of guys, shout out to D-Witch, how Big R.P., D was still around, Big Willie Kilpatrick, R.P. George Blair. A lot of Eddie's clique was some of the prominent pimps at the time. But what the old fellas used to say, whole money is slow money, but it's show money. But that bag was it. So, man, they're putting a 50 on it, man.
Now, coming in, you mentioned Marzette. So Eddie finally gets on. I did, because initially, well, let me take it back. the insurance that he had your father fill out.
Mhm.
He had your father do it because he couldn't read? Is that?
He wasn't very academically inclined.
Okay, so.
You know, I think if they'd have gave the man an IQ test, he probably would have scored off the charts. Eddie stopped going to school, I think, 3rd, 4th grade.
Got you.
And my father always had a reputation in the neighborhood. One, he had graduated from high school. Back in them days, graduating from high school was like graduating with a master's degree. No one went finished high school. So he always had the reputation as the kind of the schoolboy bookworm. So the neighborhood, when anybody, not just Eddie, anybody from Black Bottom, Paradise Valley, would have something that they needed to read or understand, they'd be like, Courtney understand how to talk to them white folks.
Yeah.
Have Courtney look at it. And he filled out some unemployment. Eddie got a thumb accident working at the plant. Like half his thumb got severed.
Got you.
And they was playing games with his compensation or his workman comp check. My father pretended to be his lawyer on the phone, filled out some, Pops pretended to be a lawyer on the phone, filled out some paperwork. They told him, come pick out, well, your client settled for $3,800. You know, that's a lot of money back then, man. Yeah. $3,800. And he was like, yeah, Spurman, go get that.
So how did he get introduced to the drug game? Like, what would make him decide to, because he came from, I guess, well-to-do parents, being that he didn't see drugs until 30, like what?
No, my pop didn't see
your
drugs.
Pop.
Didn't
Okay,
see drugs to 30.
So when did Eddie get introduced to it?
So Eddie's father passes, say, about 66, 67.
Okay.
He leaves Eddie and his brother Elijah like a $250,000 portfolio in cash. Because again, that's $250,000. That's about 2.5, 3, easy $3 million bucks. Easy $3-4 million today's money, right? Eddie and Elijah jack off the money, party away the money. So, but he had grown up seeing his daddy run these businesses and stuff, so he had a taste for the good life. So they broke. The only thing I think they had held on to was a pool hall. So he just started driving a cab, hustling.
Yeah.
And as he driving the cab, he's seeing this dope business. He's picking up hookers, picking up street people. He's seeing how this thing, and Eddie was really just a smart man.
Yeah.
Not academically, but where it counted IQ-wise. He started connecting the dots that this is where the money at. And, you know, the people who know when it began, he got beat a lot early in the game. People run off with his shit, wouldn't pay him. Think he was selling, getting raw. They'd mix it up and beat him, but he stuck to it. Then when the Attic Box introduced him to Claxton, he got to work right.
Got you. Now back at that time, when he met Claxton, like how much was he purchasing at a time to get on?
Before Claxton?
Yeah, before. Let's start before Claxton.
Say half ounce.
Half ounce. What was it going? What was like the street value back then?
So what? If a key was 100,000, ounce, what, $3,000?
Okay.
3 times 30, yeah, somewhere between $25,000 and $3,000.
Got you. So he get Claxton. Does Claxton front him? Do people front back then, or it was just like, no, you better have cash in hand?
Both.
Yeah.
People was a little more fearful to run off. The concept of running off on the plug thank God, that was not a thing back then. And that's, again, kind of put it in context.
Yeah.
It wasn't like now where everybody want to be in the game. It was a small sect in our community that was involved in this thing. If you wasn't in that world, then you wasn't in that world. And people who got in that world understood the rules of that world.
Yeah.
Like, you run off with that man, shit, he's going to kill you. You know, don't do that. All right? We don't do that. But he ended up, the first time it was one of those, you know, again, looking back, it was just meant to be. I think Claxton gave him 10 times what he had in cash. So if he went to Claxton with 10,000, Claxton gave him a quarter key.
Gotcha.
He said, just, you know, Claxton was a real big fella. You know, if you get that vibe, he gonna run for me.
Yeah.
He ain't, you know, when you're a real one, you get it. Game recognized game. Like, he gonna pay me.
Yeah.
You know pretty much instinctively. He gonna run off. Nah, this guy here, if I give him a shot,
he gonna pay me.
He gonna pay me.
Now, and I want to see this story from your dad perspective. You your dad coming up, like you said, your dad still tried to do it I guess what they call, quote unquote, the straight and narrow. Like you said, bus driver, just trying to do it the regular way and falling behind. Now, while Eddie is in the streets doing his thing, your dad on the straight and narrow, do they ever, like, I guess, break acquaintance, like they don't see each other as much because it's two different worlds?
Yes.
How long were they away from each other?
Pop says after Eddie, like, first tragedy, before he meets Claxton, he'd come down to the pool hall just to check on his guy. And he said Eddie was doing so bad, Eddie said, can you loan me $50? And Pop said he loaned him $50. And he said he didn't see him for 6 months. He said he didn't want to go down there and press his man because he don't know what happened over these 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? He don't even want to go back and press his man about the money. And he said, but 6 months passed. He's like, let me just go say hi to my man. And he said when he came back after 6 months, Eddie brother was like, Eddie riding around this new convertible Cadillac. He'll be back to the pool hall soon. And he was like, Eddie in a convertible Cadillac? And he said, as soon as he said it, Eddie come whipping around the corner in a, Jap say, a San Mateo red, drop top Eldorado. And my father like, nigga, who you steal this car from? And his brother was like, Eddie just cashed that out, man.
Damn.
And that day, he tells Pops, he say he hit his hip again. Pops say he threw him 3,000-4,000 just on the strength. Like, here go to, like, you know, Eddie got a good sense of humor. Here go the 50 that I owe you. And why don't you take this 5,000, because you my man. And that was a pretty good loan you made, that $50, wasn't it? And then he told him, he was like, and by the way, he said, you know, Papa always said if I came across some money to keep you close, he said, Courtney, why don't you start looking for some apartment buildings for me? And my father did. My father ended up finding a couple apartment buildings of them for him, and one of them ended up being 260 East Hancock, which he turned into the Carter before it was the Carter.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So now here it is, fast forward. After Eddie is on, how long does it take your dad to now join him in the business?
A year.
A year.
A year.
Well, what was your mom perspective of him joining Eddie?
Eddie's crazy and you're crazy. Mom's a good girl out of the projects in Detroit, working as a cashier at the local grocery store. Her uncles, my great uncles, she knew the game because her uncles was kind of in the game.
Gotcha.
She had never seen the game on that level though. So she was very resistant to it, but then money do talk. You know, when Dad quit his job and told Eddie he quit his job, told him told Eddie, I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage, this, that, and the third. And Eddie said, man, I'm about to go bear hunting. When I come back, I got you. Eddie come back in town, said, nah, nigga, you ain't paying off 3 months. How much you owe on your house?
Damn.
Let's just pay this off. So you know, Mom, the next thing she knows, she's sweating we 3 months behind on rent. Now this nigga talking about, call the mortgage company, we paying off the house. So that she was like, okay, I still don't think you need to be out there selling dope, run around you and Eddie go get killed, go to jail. But you said we about to pay off the house. So yeah, we about to pay off the house and let's go car shopping. And then 6 months later, Eddie hit the old man like, nigga, move out here to the suburbs with me. Came in. So when that happened, when he told Mom, said, look, let me drive out here. She like, we're going out here with them people from Motown where Smokey Robinson and all them live at. And, you know, at that point, she saw Eddie House, Olympic-sized swimming pool in the back, jacuzzi, steam room. Back when black folks didn't even know what jacuzzis and steam rooms. I tell people this the truth. Never in no movie or any TV show have they shown African Americans living the way that me and Eddie Jr. grew up. Or Eddie's house, man, and the way we was living as kids, they've never seen the people, the way they depict power or any of that stuff. They had crumbs. We was living some different kind of shit, man.
Yeah.
So when we bought the house, when Eddie bought the old man the house next to him in Southfield, at that point, Mom was like, I ain't with this, but if this how it's going down, and I get what you're saying. You doing this because you got a shot at us changing our lives and our families' lives for real, for real.
Yeah.
For real, for real.
In their heyday or at the height of them hustling, what do you estimate that they was bringing in a day at their height?
I mean, during that run from 70 to 77, maybe the worst day they ever had would have been 10, 15,000. The best day they might have had might have been a few million.
Damn. Where do you hide all this money? It just seemed like, you know how they say, like, it becomes a hassle trying to hide the money once you start making so much.
So as a kid, in my parents' bedroom, there would be $100 bills stacked from the ceiling to the floor, from wall to wall. That was just at our house. That was upstairs. Downstairs in Dad's office, because Dad kept a lot of the money.
Yeah.
Then you had Eddie. So Eddie, I mean, he had it. Immediate money, Eddie kept the immediate money he needed or would maybe come to need.
Yeah.
He kept right next door at his man house. But that's to say, this probably kept a few million just around his house. But Eddie probably had stash houses all over the country. He had properties. I mean, we didn't know till later till he got indicted. He had houses in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He had properties in Chicago. He had properties all over the country that he used just to keep his money, just to stash his money. Plus, he bought a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, a few $1 million in jewelry, then the crew gets $1 million in jewelry. And this is a man who just used to ride, literally, everyone in Detroit is documented. This man would ride down the street and throw $50,000 out the window through the projects. He didn't just do that one time. He did that many times. He'd just be like, let's ride through the block, man. And these niggas need some money.
They never had to deal with what we call, quote unquote, jack boys. I know, I seen the story of Eddie getting robbed because of his jewelry. People was kind of catching them.
Yeah.
But far as like the jack boys breaking in, I guess, dope houses, things of that nature, trying to rob y'all, he never had to deal with any of that?
I think not during the Grand Hustle, not during the 70s. I think when they was first starting up, like everybody, they got tried. The spot got tried a few times.
Yeah.
But once Eddie blew up. Plus, I mean, true, the guy was a different kind of guy. The kind of guy, if you was a right guy and you come from the block where they come from, all you got to do is tell me you trying to get some money.
Yeah.
So one, I think a lot of his beefs and stuff like that got squashed before it ever got to him because of people heard he was so good to people. If people heard you was thinking about doing something sideways, they was going to do something to you long before. Plus, he was a Gemini.
Yeah.
He had two sides to him. One side of him was just this happy, fat, jolly guy. But he had another side to him that people who knew him knew they did. You didn't want that side of him to come out.
Who do you feel like was your pops and Eddie biggest competition that time in Detroit? Who would be, if they're number one, who they close second?
Okay, so let me clarify that because I think I don't know if it was Al or somebody who got on knows this Detroit situation, and I would say this for the last until recently. There was no competition. We all worked. Everybody worked with everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say other people who were getting his money, like that was getting money on a scale like Eddie, but they wasn't getting as much money as Eddie. But it wasn't no beef because they could get work. Everybody worked. Back then it was different.
Yeah.
I think if your bag better than mine and I run short, if my plug out, I'm gonna holler at you.
Gotcha.
If you catch a problem and I'm in pocket, holler at me.
Yeah.
Cause they knew. So you had Frank Nitty Usher, rest in peace, R.I.P. Frank Nitty Usher had right before Frank passed. Me and him had dinner together. Frank Nitty been a hell of a guy in this town for a long time. He was getting money. He had a mob connect way back then, Eastern Market crew. The Canton boys, Leroy and Bernard Canton, they was out there in Southfield with us. A guy who Eddie would end up hooking up with in the 80s, a guy named Richard the Penguin Wakefield. Wakefield was getting big money back then. But Eddie had the Gambinos had that China White, man.
And that's cream with it.
They had that French Connection China White. Couldn't unrun with it.
Now you hear
Couldn't nothing run it.
China White, and we saw an American Gangster, Blue Magic from Frank Lucas. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Which was better?
It's the same bag.
It's the same.
It is the same bag. So in theory, which R.I.P. Frank Lucas, right? So let me say that. The movie is a great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. It's a fictional movie. The man who did it was a guy by the name of Leslie Ike Atkins. Great book called Sergeant Smack about Leslie Ike Atkins. Leslie Ike Atkins did time with the old man down from that Eddie case in Atlanta. They got to know each other. They both from North Carolina. Frank Lucas and Ike Atkins both from North Carolina, along with Frank Matthews. All that clique. Frank
right
Matthews, Frank Lucas, Ike Atkins all come from that Durham, North Carolina area.
Gotcha.
Fort Bragg, right? Ike Atkins and a guy named Joe Jackson, who was military officers, had the bar over there in Thailand. They didn't sneak it in coffins. That coffin connection thing, I don't know how the media got it. But anyway, Hollywood. But that part is true. So if you remember in American Gangster, when he meets the head guy, the Chinaman in charge of the triad, he tells him, even if you do get it back in, the guys from Marseille are going to kill you. Marseille is in France.
Yeah, I've been there.
The French connection.
Yeah.
So what the Chinaman's telling him in American Gangster is, because you want to bring in the same stuff that the guys from Marseille are bringing in. That's the bag that Eddie was getting from Marseille, because he says either the Corsicans, the guys from Marseille, or the Italians are going to kill you because you're going to have the same quality product as them. Gotcha. The Gambinos were getting it from the Corsicans and from out of Marseille.
Got you.
Right? Frank Matthews, why he ran the bag up like nobody ever did, Frank Matthews is getting that same French connection bag, but he's getting it out of his people in Venezuela direct. So he getting the same. Eddie had the dope was as good as Frank Matthews, but Frank Matthews was getting at a much better ticket.
Got you. Now, Frank Matthews, because a lot of people, unless you know, I found out about Frank Matthews because of y'all.
Okay.
When that story popped up, I think one of the things Al Prophet did on him, that story was crazy because at first I was like, no, you keep saying Frank Matthews, you mean Frank Lucas. And it was like, no, this is a whole different person. So, and is it just, your dad was the last one to see Frank Matthews, allegedly?
One of them.
Pops.
So a crazy story is Pops, is Black Butch, Eddie, the smallness of the circle. I'm very proud to Chuck and Irving Goldfarb. Rest in peace, Irving Goldfarb. There's some Jewish gentlemen, bail bondsmen in this town. It's no secret, very mafia connected.
Yeah.
That represented, that helped, that would do all the bond work for Eddie throughout the years, and they got a close relationship. They were very mobbed up. They had interest in Caesar's Palace and the Thunderbird Casino in Vegas.
Gotcha.
So they would get Eddie sweets and stuff whenever he would go out to Vegas. He liked to gamble a lot. Anyway, just one day they go, Pops and Eddie and Butch and them was out in Vegas, and they see a bunch of people crowded around a crap table because there's some black guy over there betting $50,000 every roll of the dice. Eddie see this kind of action. He just can't pass it up. He don't know who the guy is. He just like, this nigga clowning. 50,000 a roll, right? I got to get in on this. He started fading Frank Matthews. They pass the dice to Eddie, and they go back and forth, fading each other 50,000 a roll for a minute. After they get done, exhausted of clowning with each other. Like, what's your name? What is it? I'm Frank Matthews. He's like, oh, Frank out of Brooklyn. He's like, my name is Eddie. He like, Eddie Jackson out of Detroit, right? And they like, we got a lot of the same friends in New York. And they just kicked it, right? Yeah. That night, Frank was about to be indicted on his big case. So they're seeing Eddie and Pops and all of them and Butch talk to Frank Matthews. He was under surveillance because they know they're about to arrest him. So they end up making up some shit to arrest Eddie and Butch and Pops. And when they get to the Clark County Jail in Vegas, Frank Matthews is already there. And this is in the morning. The headline of the Las Vegas paper is New York Kingpin held on $500,000 cash bond. And then what Pops say, Butch, when they walk in and they see Frank Matthews already in the cell, and they like, damn, homie, why didn't you tell us you was hot like this? You got us all twisted. And they bullshitting, but they say, Frank told them, he said, I'm going to tell you something, man. Don't worry about it. My people going to be here in a minute. I'm going to get these white folks this $500,000. I'm going to go back to New York. And if this shit look a little bit too serious, y'all don't have to worry about me no more. And he bonded out, paid $500,000 1973 bond.
Damn.
Right?
So
$5-10 million easy today.
yeah.
Posted $500,000 cash bond. He went back to New York. His people told him they was about to try to hit him with an 848, which is the super kingpin status.
Yeah.
Mandatory life, no possibility of parole. Ain't never been seen since.
Bust them all.
Yeah. True story.
That's crazy.
True story.
Do you speculate? Do you think he's still alive?
I mean, he was young. Frank would probably be in his late 70s now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my pops is 85 and still getting around.
Yeah. Now, it was somebody that they said Frank Matthews was real close with. What documentary I saw this? They said it was somebody that Frank Matthews was real close with, and he passed away, and all the feds was there at the funeral. Expecting him.
Was it John Liddy or Shorty Buse? One of those guys,
Yeah.
I think it was my man Shorty, who had actually had a little part in The Wire. The TV show The Wire, because The Wire used a lot of those old Baltimore G's.
Gotcha.
And Frank got plenty of money in Baltimore. I think his name was Shorty Bruce. It was either Shorty Bruce or John Liddy. One of his man's bands passed, and the Fed's intelligence was so believing that Frank was still alive that he might come to pay his last respects to his man, that they camped out at the funeral and put up wanted posters. He's still on America's Most Wanted list.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you think with like all the drug crime, like the drug laws that's changed now, that they would still try to make him do a mandatory life? If they had
The case would be hard because everybody's dead.
Yeah.
All his co-conspirators.
Yeah.
I think if they found Frank Matthews now, given today's world, they give him 6 months and just take the W that we made you do a day.
Yeah.
It ain't no fame, you know. He's not, because now it ain't the same as the super 30, the 38, the 30, 29, 30-year-old super kingpin.
Yeah.
With hundreds of millions, you're gonna be marshaling in a senior citizen trying to triumph for shit he did 40 years ago.
Yeah.
They'd make him sit down probably for a minute, but they wouldn't charge him with an 848.
Gotcha.
Plus, it wouldn't stick because again, I don't even know. Half the agents are dead and half the co-conspirators are dead.
Now, when you look at kingpins, to me, and maybe I'm wrong and just not knowing, but it seems like Detroit and New York have the most condensed population of kingpins. Was there any other places outside of those two that you had, like for show kingpins on the same level as a Eddie Jackson or a Frank Matthews? Well, I know Frank Matthews is in a league of his own, but you know, New York got Frank Lucas and
Myers
and what's my other man name with the glasses? Mickey Barnes. Nicky Barnes, yeah.
For sure.
Is there any other state or area that was known for having like kingpins like that?
I mean, Baltimore and Philly, now a lot of that clique ate off of Frank Matthews.
Okay.
But Liddy Jones and Major out of Philly. Baltimore got a long history. Little Melvin.
Okay.
Out of Baltimore. He's a hell of a fella.
Yeah.
Later midget in the Atlantic City, which is still that Philly area. But I'd say Philly and Baltimore, they had some players there. And a lot of them that was dope banging was eating off of Frank Matthews' plate because Frank did a lot of business in Philly and Baltimore. Chicago, they just
Okay.
didn't get the recognition. And Harlem and Detroit are different animals, though.
Mm. What made them different?
Detroit, we just had this, we had the auto industry in Motown, right?
Mm.
So it's just a lot of money. You know, back in those days, Detroit was the most prosperous city for African Americans in the country.
Right.
And everybody was from down south.
Yeah.
It was just a real unique. So you had all this factory money, you had this entertainment money, you had a close-knit black community where you kind of did what you did, and the white folks didn't even know what was going on in the black community. For real, for real. Kind of like Harlem,
Yeah.
real concentrated. You know, Harlem run, 110 to 155, east to west, river to river. But yet you got 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's going down. So one block, you know, in New York, you can get millions off a block.
Yeah.
And in Detroit, when they concentrate everybody in the projects, or, you know, and everything. So, and we had black politics and all of that. But Detroit, your assessment is correct.
Yeah.
It's Harlem and Detroit, but you
Who
had
you
Fluky and them in Chicago.
Harlem, Detroit, who first?
I'm prejudiced, so I'm gonna say, and I can make a real argument for it. But I take nothing away. I mean,
Yeah.
I ended up spending a lot of time in New York in the '80s. I mean, and Eddie and Pops and them, you know, Eddie knew Nicky Barnes and the whole new Pop met Nicky, and they all knew each other. The mob was supplying. You know, back then the mob only dealt with about 5 black guys in the whole country.
Yeah.
So they all knew each other. I would tell you, I'd never take nothing away from Nicky or, you know, Guy Fish or any of those guys in Harlem. Those guys ran up the bag as good as it could be. It ran up, but Detroit, man, we got a deep bench, man. A really deep bench.
Did Detroit ever have a mob presence here?
The Eastern Market, yeah. The Grosse Pointe, those guys, there's a big Detroit mob Italian family here. Their reputation is true. It's one of the most low profile, well organized, money cleaned up.
Yeah.
You know, but Grosse Pointe, St. Clair Shores, all that Mount Clemens is a lot of that's my money.
What about when you look at, Detroit has one of the highest Middle Eastern populations. So when you look at the Chaldeans and the Arabs and things,
they got their hand in everything.
Yeah.
Let that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But they got their hands in everything.
Got you. But I mean, did you ever know any major players out of those camps back in the day?
Not that I can speak about.
Got you. Okay.
But I'll just say that we used to go out to Taboos.
Okay.
Used to go to the Silent Woman.
Okay.
On 8 Mile.
Okay.
Everyone knows about the Colosio family.
Yep.
And their associates. I can just say they're good people. I got nothing but respect and love for the Chaldean community.
Yeah.
But they busy.
Sure.
It's a very busy community.
Now, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, because usually, in the blog world, especially in the hip-hop blog world, they like to do lists. Like, the most popping rappers right now, or the greatest rappers of all time, or the greatest producers.
Mm.
Who, in your mind, are the top 5 Detroit hustlers of all time?
All time.
All time.
Wow, we got a deep bench. That's rough there. We got a big bench. We got a lot of first ballot unanimous candidates in the D.
The Hustler Hall of Fame.
Out of home field advantage.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Eddie Jackson at the top of the pyramid.
Number 1.
I don't. I mean, you could get some debate, but
so bigger, because everybody now is Big Meech, BMF.
Meech gonna make the cut. But I'm gonna be honest. Meech ain't gonna be in. You said top 5.
Top 5.
All right, so I done got 1 in 5. I'm gonna put Meech because I gotta put Meech in there. Shout out to Meech. Shout out to T.
Yeah.
Shout out to Little Meech. Shout out to that whole clique of stand-up guys.
So 1 in 5. Okay.
Okay.
Number 2.
So Eddie number 1. I'm gonna cheat.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Doc Davis and Sylvester Seal Murray as a combination.
Okay.
Because when Doc and Seal was messing around, that bag, that's going to the Pony Crew and the YBI.
And this still heroin at the time.
That's their heroin.
So this is what time frame? 70s,
Late
80s?
70s, early 80s.
Okay.
But the Davis, so I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna say that cabal, I'm gonna cheat. That cabal of the Pony Crew, LB, shout out to LB Buxton, Doc Davis, big fella, international connection. Doc was ranked, the government ranked him as the highest, as the biggest international drug trafficker.
Jeez.
Like in 1980. Sylvester Seal Murray, double plugged.
Yeah.
Plugged with Doc Davis and plugged with the Italians at the Eastern Market. So that cabal is number 2.
Okay.
You got Eddie, then you got that whole YBI Pony, Doc, Seal, LB cabal.
Number 3.
Number 3, got to go with the OG Frank Usher.
Frank Usher, okay.
Frank Nitty Usher. Right?
Okay.
Number 4, little hometown, little inner clique loyalty too, but I got to put D, Demetrius Holloway.
Okay.
I got to go. You know, and I feel, you know, and with him, there's some runs, you know, KK, my guy.
Yeah.
You know, what KK and his brother Lawrence did when they had their thing, you know, you know, so I put Meech because you can't not put
the
homie Meech on the list, but let's keep it a buck. It was KK and Lawrence that put Meech on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So we're going to say...
what about YBI and Pony now? Even though I know you said he was getting fronted by somebody else.
You know, those guys, people, I mean, you know, shout out to that whole clique, you know, Big Steve, Fat Steve Goodwin, shout out to Pep Cooper. Rest in peace, Brett. WW, that whole, all those guys. Hustlers. They didn't have a plug though, really. I mean, I'm just keeping it a buck. I mean, Butch early connection was a guy named Milwaukee Jack and Treacherous who come out the Eddie Jackson tree. It was, you know, and I say this, I'm throwing no shade on YBI. Those guys are good guys, friends.
Yeah.
Long time memories, some very good memories with those guys, but they didn't have the plug. It was a massive, great retail street cartel. And them guys collected the money as good as it was to be collected, but they didn't have a bag.
What about Chambers Brothers?
I would say, see, you're right, because and this is where it's hard. You can't compare Coke money to dog food money.
Why not?
I'm happy to tell people. So that's why I really should have been a list of 10 dog food or top 5 dog food, top 5 Coke, because you can't keep up with me if I got something like that China White. I don't care how many bricks of girl you got. You can't run with me.
So heroin will outdo crack?
1,000. Yes. They're not even the same league.
They're
not even in the same league. They're not in the same league. My 2 bricks of China White Pure, it's worth more than 2,000 of your bricks of Coke. 2,000. You can have 2 metric tons of that shit. I can have 2 pounds of China White untouched, and I'll still clean your clock.
Damn.
They're not even so. I'm not throwing no shade on nobody like that.
Yeah.
But the guys like Frank Matthews, Nicky Barnes, Ike Atkins, Eddie Jackson, you wasn't gonna come. We Pop sold both later. We got a plug out of the Bahamas, and they're good when that crack era thing came. Shout out to the homie Kevin Childs in out of New York. Them boys in New York with that Yale bag, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
They ran it up now.
Yeah.
But if you read Kevin, and shout out again, Kevin Childs, read this book, The Crack Era. He says it how when he went, his people wasn't even interested when he told them there's a lot of money in this coke. But them old heads that had been in the boy game was like, ain't nobody got time. Shout out to the homie Cavario. Cabral was saying the same thing. You know, when he approached his people, that, you know, people starting to get money with this coke. But they getting that dog right. They're like, man, ain't nobody got time for that.
How did people learn how to cook up, turn coke to crack? Because it seemed like that got to be somewhere, a scientist somewhere was like, oh, we got one. Put this down here.
It came out of South America. I think the Bahamas. Legend is that they start cooking it down in the islands in the Caribbean. The Colombians and them had figured out the process. No, the process of how to crystallize it go back 100 years.
Got you.
Germans, scientists. I think it's a German scientist.
Got you.
Refined it.
So Snowfall with Freeway Ricky Ross, is he like one of the first crack kingpins? Is that
I would say they got famous.
Okay.
Him, the Chambers, shout out to them. Shout out to...
When did you see crack touch down in Detroit? Like, and what was like, people, because dog food, you didn't see it like demolish and dismantle communities. But it was like crack, destroy everything.
Summer 83, there was still powder houses. There were still powder houses in the city.
Okay.
By summer 85, you couldn't buy powder in the street. Everything was a rock house. They didn't even call it crack then. They call it them things, or they call it some rocks. The word crack hadn't even, that word didn't even exist yet.
Okay.
But I will remember running around with Eddie Baby, that YBI crew. Shout out to Scott Sledge, Jabba the Hutt. I'll never forget, we went over there and Eddie gave them a couple ounces of yay. And Scotty say, man, telling you, they ain't like it before. Everybody want to cook it up now, man. There ain't no business selling powder no more. And that conversation rings in my mind because it was the first time I ever heard somebody say that. And he said it so nonchalant, like, I'm going to tell you, Haba, man, it's selling powder, rough hustle right now. We're going to have to cook this up to move it. And I was like, That was like 85. By 86, 87, it was just an epidemic.
Did you ever try it?
Oh, yes. Unfortunately. Unfortunately.
What was that feeling like? Because I know.
I mean, I've never, my unfortunate incident, I tried once. I put some crack in a joint, which is known as a 51.
Yeah.
And I would spend $250,000 in the next 90 days.
Damn.
That is not something to play with. Trust me. $250,000, 90 days. True story.
Damn.
Anybody know me know it's factual. That's factual.
I had an uncle, you know, because my generation, we saw, I mean, I'm a 90, I mean, I was born in 84, but you know, me coming up, you saw the effects now, crackheads being around, quote unquote.
Yeah, go ahead.
And my uncle, he about 62. And we was talking, and he was talking about like down in Louisiana, they would party and they would smoke crack. And he asked me, he's like, D, you ever smoke crack? I'm like, hell no. But I was like, he was like, man, he said, I did it one time, and he said, I knew I could never do it again. He was like, bro, it was the best feeling of my life. And he said, I knew that it did, and I better not ever smoke it again.
He was smart. It took me a minute to figure it out. But and then obviously we had dude, that summer, I jacked off that 250. Man, I'd sell niggas ounces at noon and be buying this shit back from them at Rocks at night. That shit's madness. We had the bag.
Yeah.
We had the bag.
Yeah.
I was a kingpin at noon and a crackhead at night.
How did you kick your habit off of that? Because a lot of people don't come back from crack.
First substitution, whores, marijuana, and liquor. All right. And God, I mean, eventually.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't touched anything now, you know, over 20 years, but so that's why I tell people I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm real with it. People are gonna do what they want to do.
No, that's real.
People gonna do what they want to do. I don't blame you. So people come with you destroyed the community. I'm like, A, we're from the community. How the fuck I destroy it?
And B, everybody was having good. Nobody knew the devastation. You could never predict what it was gonna do.
I mean, was it okay when we was at the Marriott looking out of high rises and $1,000 strippers running around? Is it cool then, but it's not cool when she's walking down the street turning $5 tricks? I get it, but the world is the world. You know what I mean? It's no one says anything when people lose their house at the casino.
Yeah.
And how many people have ruined lives, families, and relationships because they drank too much from alcohol. I mean, unfortunately, human nature is human nature.
So with that being said, do you think all drugs should be legalized?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And if not legalized, because they play with that, they should all be decriminalized.
Yeah.
So that's a difference, right, between legalizing and decriminalizing. I don't think you should be locking up people because they have a substance abuse issue.
It's a medical issue, not a criminal.
It's a medical issue, not a criminal issue. Secondly, if you tell me I can smoke tobacco and put a label on it that says, smoking this is dangerous, you got to be a certain age to do it.
Mm.
If you tell me I can drink this alcohol, but I can't drink too much of it because I'm not allowed to get behind 3,000-pound machines known as cars and drive under the influence, you allow me to go shoot dice and can ruin my entire family's life with one roll of the dice. You okay with all of that? I can have a tooth surgery and you can give me Oxycontins and Percocets. You okay with all of that? And then you tell me he can't smoke a rock and he can't shoot a blow? Who how that working?
Yeah, it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, how's that working?
Yeah. Yeah, I look at it like, I don't understand why I understand you protect children and make sure you put safeguards to keep them, but let adults make adult decisions. Let people choose. Because at the end of the day, anything in this room what works for me may not work for you. I'm a big dude. I love food. I got a food problem. Food can kill me from diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. You may not have an issue with it. Everybody don't have the same vices, so allow people to choose.
I've been around the world. I've been to Amsterdam and a lot of places where drugs are decriminalized.
Yeah.
They're safer, cleaner than American cities.
Yeah.
Because, and there's a red light district in every town, officially or unofficially.
Facts.
There is blocks where drugs are legal. We just don't want to say it. It's blocks the police know exactly that house, what they do at that house. They've been doing it there for 20 years. We tired of running down there. Everybody knows where the dope house is.
Yeah.
It is legal. We just play games with the situation.
Mm.
And then, they start making money locking people up, and that's a whole.
Do you feel like, which is most devastating to you, crack or fentanyl?
I was out the streets when we were really on our way out the streets when we started hearing about fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, 25 years ago, the problem was people didn't know how to work with it, and they were killing people. People was ODing.
Yeah.
I never seen it. I've never touched it. People in the hustler community, when it first came out, was scared because people was starting to hit the bag with it, and you could be testing it. Because a lot of the old timers test by taste. They don't use dope, but they can if you've dealt with it, the bitterness, the amount that it lingers in your mouth, you can get a pretty decent idea of the purity level, right? But now, all of a sudden, you're telling me they all hitting the shit with some shit that I can taste it and die? So way back then, at the turn of the century, like when we were really transitioning out of the street, that fentanyl thing was just starting to come in. A lot of guys that started selling pills going down to West Virginia and that kind of shit. But then certainly as soon as we got out the streets, that fentanyl thing became a thing. And now it's a thing. It's a thing. Now they don't even want the dope, they just want the fentanyl.
Because I never understood. I always say, like, why would you want to sell fentanyl to your client if it's killing them off? But somebody told me, it's like, the crazy thing is if somebody hear that a drug is strong enough to kill somebody, they start seeking out that drug because they feel like it's a real good.
If it's good enough to OD him, I'm just going to get a good high, but I ain't going to die.
Yeah, man.
What a thought, right?
And so tell me a little bit about the podcast, like the angle with what you guys working on, how that works. Because I see sometimes you on it, Al Prophet is on it, Y'all bring a bunch of guests on. Then I see Coney Island. What is the other one?
Well, he's associated with it. He
Associated,
found it. Shout out to Coney Island, Tony. Coney Island Chronicles. I shout out to my brother, of course, Eddie Baby.
Yeah.
He's over there at Real True Street Crimes at Patreon.
Yeah.
So it's the clique, it's the family.
Yeah.
You know, so me and Lou started Big Boss 12 years ago when we hooked up with Al and Scott and did the doc. And then we transitioned. This was before the podcast world. We was doing internet radio, Kingpin's Kid Radio.
Okay.
Still just pushing the doc, pushing the book. And Al went out to Cali and started his American Dope thing. Then we were still networking with him, and then it's like, well, shoot, we need to keep pushing. We need to, things started to get popular on Amazon and on Tubi, the doc. And it's like, well, we need to start pushing, carrying our weight and start doing something. And we just started, you know, bought some pod equipment.
Yeah.
And just started talking about back in the day. Next thing we know, the thing started growing. And, you know, we knew some people. So then the network knew the network. Al knew Cavario, so we started doing some work with him. And Family No Family. Then, you know, KK had come out with his book, and he was getting some shine with the BMF story because they had him on Blowing Money Fast. And, you know, if you do the history of Detroit, there's probably about 30 families.
Yeah.
It's about 30 families in this town. And if you look at the tentacles of those 30 families, they all intertwine and intermarried and inter-hustled with. So everybody kind of know everybody. And then this real true crime stuff, these stories, these hustle stories started to catch on all over.
Yeah.
You know, because we caught just the end. Again, shout out to Kevin and them at Don Diva. I think that was the first publication that we worked with was like the 10th anniversary of Don Diva when Kevin did that. And Feds Magazine.
Okay.
They helped us start off. Shout out to Black and Antoine and Una, all them good people at the old Feds Magazine. And so then the pod started, and then it just became kind of a platform for the family. You know, we like to think of Motown Mafia. It ain't just about the Eddie Jackson and Courtney Brown story because they weren't in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You know, all of us that was in the clique. You know, when we go down to the Brewster Projects and do a reunion or something, it ain't about just Eddie and Courtney. It's about us.
It's about y'all for sure.
It's about the city. It's about that cult, that whole Black Bottom crew.
And that's a lot of Detroit history I learned from y'all, like Paradise Valley and Black Bottom. And I mean, just kid on the west side on Joy Road, I kind of just stayed in that pocket.
Exit 9.
Yeah, there you go. And just from Southfield, between Greenfield to Telegraph Road, that's like the furthest I went, I guess, was that east and west, and north and south is Warren to, I guess, Southfield. That's about the parameters I stayed in.
Shout out to the old Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Arab community.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sam and Nino.
Yeah, man. But I tell you what, man, y'all got something that's great, that's unique. The internet love gangster stories. Because of y'all, my channel has grown tremendously. When I came here and I got Chestnut from YBI.
Shout out to Nut.
You know what I'm saying? All of them, I came here for the first time doing like the street interviews. I would say in May or June. I think I was at like 45, 50,000 subscribers, and here it is 6 months later, I'm at 150,000. So it's like, man.
You're killing the game, bro. Salute to you.
Y'all, shout out to y'all. Shout out to Al Prophet. Because I said, who he interview, he with them. They doing numbers, and they can tell stories. Let me get them. Yeah. And so I appreciate y'all, man.
Appreciate you, man. And so we got Motown Mafia Reloaded Part 2 coming first of the year. Got some script work. One script in the can. So
there you go.
You know, I do a lot of other stuff, but 2 projects that we are going to do. We're going to do the Eddie Jackson, Courtney Brown story, full-length motion picture.
Okay.
And we're going to do the Part 2 of the story full-length. So you got at least 3 more projects coming from us.
Hey, man.
I can count on that. You can count on that.
Come out, man. I got to have y'all on, and we sit down and we talk about it.
Anytime, family. Appreciate you.
Hey, until we meet again.
There it is. Oh.